Hello and welcome to New Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo. The top stories at this hour. Budget Foundation raises concerns over alleged omissions, irregularities in the 2025 budget. Police, Army, Fulani vigilantes rescue 3 kidnapped victims during Kogi forest raid. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi calls for Israel's immediate and unconditional withdrawal from all Lebanese territory. Details to come your way shortly. We start by telling you that there are indications that the federal government is not very transparent in the articulation and presentation of the 2025 budget of the Federation, a civic tech organization promoting transparency and accountability in Nigeria's public finance budget. Raised the concerns, describing the budget as lacking adequate disclosure, particularly regarding its revenue framework. The organization pointed out the absence of budget breakdowns for key agencies such as the National Judicial Council and TED Fund. Additionally, budgets noted that the budgets for a number of government-owned enterprises, including the Nigeria Ports Authority and the Nigerian Customs Service, were missing from the proposed budget. Among many other concerns, the organization also raised concerns over the allocation of 2.49 trillion naira to regional development commissions under personnel costs, arguing that this approach obscures the true nature of the operational expenses and undermines transparency and accountability. Now, for more on the alleged irregularities in the 2025 budget, I'm now joined by the Group Head, Research and Policy Advisory of Budget Foundation, Vayala Konga. Now, Vayala joins me, of course, on this particular segment of the news. Thank you so much for coming around. I'm guessing we are not getting audio across to Vayala, but then we'll try as much as possible to establish audio connections so that we can have a proper discussion on this 2025 budget. In the meantime, following calls for the suspension of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, over allegations of 8 billion naira fraud involving one of his aides, several youths have dismissed the allegations as false and mischievous. The group, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, says that the allegations are unfounded, politically motivated, and aimed at distracting President Bola Tinubu from achieving his renewed hope agenda objectives, including discrediting the SGF. Now, they are also urging that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will conduct a thorough investigation into the matter.
Akume has ensured and coordinated the policies and programs of President Tinubu's Renewed Hope administration. His office is the engine room of government, and those working with him within and outside government can attest to his tireless commitment to the successful implementation of the Renewed Hope agenda. Any objective observer would know that this attack are part of a ground plot by desperate political actors who feel threatened by the rising influence and respect Senator Akume enjoys, especially in northern Nigeria, where he has constantly preached unity, equity, and progress.
Let's now go on our short break. When we return, we'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has criticized the proposed bill on compulsory voting, describing it as unconstitutional. The bill, sponsored by the House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, proposes a 6-month jail term or 100,000 naira fine for eligible voters who fail to participate in elections. Falana argues that the bill violates Nigeria's and citizens' rights to privacy, freedom of thought, and voluntary participation in elections. Falana wants the House to withdraw the bill and recommends electoral reforms like amending the Electoral Act to include proposals from the Uwais Electoral Reform Panel. And now let's run you through the world's democracies where voting by eligible voters is compulsory and carries sanctions, fine or punishment, as you may like to put it. And there are 22 of them. Now, 2 of them, as part of what you can see on your screen, are African nations, namely the Democratic Republic of Congo and Egypt. And 7 of them are in South America, 5 in North America, 3 in Europe, and 2 in Oceania, and of course 3 in Asia. Now, for more on the alleged irregularities in this story as regards people having to vote mandatorily, we're going to be talking to Abib Aruna, and Abib is a publisher and a current affairs analyst. You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We can't hear you yet. Can you please unmute your device? All right, I think we can hear you now. Okay, so let's start with your views as regards mandatory voting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you now. Can you hear me too?
Okay, good. Well, I think I will wholeheartedly share the sentiment expressed by Olusegun Bakoba and Mr. Femi Falana, son. You see, you cannot mandate people to go and vote. People cannot be mandated or made it a compulsory for citizens to go and express their franchise. It will be at variance with our constitution that guarantees freedom of speech and the right to privacy. And by extension, rights to conscience. People cannot be forced to go and vote because we have not reached that stage yet. This is not a banana republic, you know, and the fine they are putting into it, we also not make it work. It is the way and manner of democracy is being run that is making people to be less interested in the process. When people now realize that when they vote, their vote will not count. When they realize that the democratic space has been structured to favor the elite, they will not be interested in voting. To them, voting is not for them. Because when they vote, their vote will not count. So that presumably may have contributed or influenced the way and manner the rest people are thinking. That is why I assume that they want to make voting compulsory, you know, for Nigerians. I think that is not, they're not getting it right. What they need to get right, the first instance, is the first place, is to make sure that our vote count. Once our vote count, people will be interested to vote. Once the result of the election reflects what the people have done at the ballot box, there's no way they won't go back the next time to vote. But when it's not a reflection of their voting pattern, they will not be interested in voting. No matter the compulsion, no matter the mandatory efforts they are making to put it in place, it cannot work. The best thing to do it is to make sure that there is a free and fair process, free, transparent, credible electoral process. Once that one is done, people will be interested to go and vote willingly on their own. That is my opinion.
In as much as I might understand what your standpoint is, one would look at it from the angle of there's no perfect system. There's no perfect system anywhere in the world. And even in those imperfections, in those other climes, people are still patriotic enough to participate in exercising their franchise when it comes to electoral processes. So how would you now describe the difference between those other systems that are not perfect, but then we still have people who are still voting, and in Nigeria, whereby the system is equally not perfect, but people are being told this is what you need to do?
You see, there is no where democracy is perfect. Democracy is a journey. It's not a destination. You know, it will, with time come to perfection, little by little, come to perfection. Even the most democratic country with robust democracy, like America, you know, they are still learning. It's a step, they're still learning, even though their own is becoming increasingly matured over time. But in Nigeria, if you look at our journey from 1999 to date, I don't think is a thing to be proud of. We cannot raise glass and pop champagne that our democracy is growing, is becoming robust. No. It's not at all. We are, and you know that. So I think what the elite, what the political players, our politicians, what they should be focused on for now is how to make, because election is the basics in democracy. Elections is the basis, periodic election is the basis for democracy. Some countries that you mentioned before I came in, most of them are not democratic. Look at Bolivia, look at Egypt. They are not democratic. US is not there, Britain is not there. European countries are not there. So you need to make sure that you put in place structures that will guarantee free and fair elections. And look at elections in Nigeria in 2007, 2003. Look at the people that came out to vote. They came out in droves to vote because their votes were counting. But over time, 2011, 2015, we've been witnessing people are not interested. And people are not becoming, because what they are voting for, they are not seeing it. Their votes are not counting. So they are not influencing the system. It's becoming increasingly apparent to them that the system is tilted to favor the elite. So they're not interested in it. So once the players are geared, what efforts are geared to make sure that what people want is done. When we go out to vote, let the results show that this is what we voted for. Not some people will go behind the curtain and manipulate the results. That will not work for any system. And I can tell you, by this mandate, people should not be mandate to go and vote. No, they cannot work in Nigeria. And for sure, it's against our constitution, which guarantee freedom of speech and right to do anything. If you take me to court, I'll go to court and take my lawyer. All right,
Abi Baruna, let's hang that conversation on that particular peg right now. But then thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We go on a break now. When we return, JAM to release results of 379,000 UTME receipt candidates on Wednesday. We'll bring you more details in a short while. Don't go away. Well, earlier on the news, we told you the government is being mildly accused by budgets as regards the 2025 budget, and of course the fact that the government has not been transparent in terms of its articulation and presentation of the budget, most especially as it has to do with the allocation of funds to the specific areas of which these particular funds should be expended. And now to actually give more clarity to the issue around the 2025 budgets, and of course having to help Nigeria understand how this translates into the delivery of the dividends of democracy, we are going to be talking to the Group Head, Research and Policy Advisory of Budget Foundation, who is Vayala Kwaga. Vayala, thank you so much for joining us. We were supposed to have you a couple of minutes back, but we're glad that finally we've been able to establish quality communication with you. So I'm just going to get into it. Let's start with you even having to give an overview of your findings in the 2025 budget. Where were those areas that you felt were shady that needs clarity on?
Thank you so much for having me. As always, it's actually been a while. So the 2025 budget is, as many Nigerians are already aware, Nigeria's largest budget in Naira terms. That is very important because if you were to control for inflation and for depreciation of the Naira, the 2025 budget, 54.9 trillion, in dollar terms is actually slightly less than the 2023 federal budget. So it's important that we see these things for what they are. And this is really to send home the message that the Naira has suffered incredible depreciation and, inflation over the past 2 years. So principally, we've noticed a few things. Firstly, I will begin by saying that the information and the data that should be publicly available, that should be accessible by Nigerians in a timely manner, seems to be more and more of a thing of the past. where, you would have information published on the website of the budget office, very, very quickly. And there would even be presentations, made by the budget office to Nigerians to really break down the budget and provide some level of analysis. For the 2025 budget, this was not done. Rather, what we saw was a back and forth between the presidency, the executive, and the legislature to increase the total budget size. I'll get to that in a moment. So as we speak, there is no revenue information. There's no breakdown of the full sources of revenue that will fund the 2025 budget. We think that that is an anomaly, and we believe that this information should be publicly available. Also, and this is perhaps one of the key issues, is that there may have been some form of violation of the Fiscal Responsibility Act in two respects. The first one is the way and manner in which the president increased the budget size. If you recall, the president, I think sometime in January, sent a letter to the National Assembly asking them to increase the size of the budget, in his estimation, because there was additional revenue from some key revenue generating agencies, FIRS, the Nigerian Customs Service, and I think the Electronic Money Transfer Levy, if I'm not mistaken. So we believe that that may likely be a violation, as the Fiscal Responsibility Act clearly states that the budget can only be increased through the presentation of a medium-term expenditure framework. And that medium-term expenditure framework was published in late 2024. If it needed to have been amended, it should have been amended, because a letter, we believe, is not rigorous enough, lacks the detail, and does not take into consideration the serious amount of fiscal projections and analysis required, for the increase or expansion of the budget size by the executive. Now, the second leg of that issue, again, is that regarding the size of the budget. So the Fiscal Responsibility Act as well states that the aggregate expenditure should not exceed the aggregate projected revenue plus 3% of GDP. And by our calculations, the budget should not have been increased beyond 51 trillion. But as we are aware, the budget was pushed to 54.9 trillion, which, like the law provides, is a violation. Now, there are instances where this 3% can be exceeded, but it must be followed by rigorous debate and public information on how the medium-term expenditure framework will be rewritten or at least amended to provide for this change in the budget size. I think I'll stop here for now.
Okay, so even with these that you have said, we are also reading of omissions in the budgets for key agencies like the NJC and TET Fund in the 2025 budget. Now that we're having discrepancies and we're having some omissions, is there anything that speaks to the possibility of Nigerians getting the best, if I'm going to be very satirical about this, as regards these 2025 budgets?
I mean, it's hard to say at this point. In our estimation, and a lot of civil society organizations that work in the transparency and accountability space agree, there seems to be a rollback of the reforms, the hard-fought reforms in transparency and accountability by in the previous administration. We had the Open Treasury, then we had regular updates on the budget office website, budget office of the Federation website, and now that seems really to be a thing of the past. The Open Treasury website, which was an initiative of the Office of the Accountant General, has not been supplied with information for this fiscal year. If I'm not mistaken, the earliest data or the latest data on the Open Treasury platform, which basically provides monthly data, quarterly data on government spending. I think the latest data is February of 2025, and we're already in May. In addition, the Budget Office has not published any budget implementation reports, save for that of Q2 2024. So we basically do not know how well the 2024 budget, which, by the way, still has capital projects being executed till June, has fared. And in addition to the point you raised about the lack of detail for the NJC, and for other first-line charge ministries, which interestingly was provided in the previous budget, the budget of 2024. I could speak to the issues of insertions as well, but I do not see a government, both an executive and a National Assembly, that is willing to carry the people along in this critical part of the budget process. There are other components of the budget process, the monitoring and evaluation and the audit, which we hope the National Assembly will carry civil society and the public along. And we also hope that the presidency, the executive, would carry citizens along. But these conversations have to go beyond the ministerial briefings that are attended by only those who can afford to go to Abuja. It needs to be followed up with information that is accessible on websites. I mean, these are things that were done very frequently without any form of constraint in the previous administration. And it's actually very concerning that this administration seems to be lagging behind in that regard.
Basically, what we're saying is that we need a lot of clarity on the composition of this budget, and it has to be spelled out for public scrutiny. Well, this is going to be a conversation we're going to continue definitely during the course of our bulletins and on other programs too. But then I want to say thank you so much, Vayala Kwaga, for bringing this to our knowledge on the news. Thank you so much.
Like always, thank you.
Of course. Now, looking at the story reaching us right now during the course of this bulletin, members of Penguin have barricaded the Federal Ministry of Finance headquarters in Abuja in protest, and they have been there since early as 7 a.m. And of course, we do not yet have unclear details as regards to what their demands are, but according to what we understand, they are unrelenting in pushing forward with this particular protest. Thankfully, we have our correspondent who's actually on ground, and he has been documenting the proceedings of this particular protest. That is Joshua Imarayi, who is going to be telling us more now. Joshua, thank you so much. Over to you. Let's have an understanding of what the issues are at that particular area.
Good afternoon to you, Lekon. I am live at the Federal Ministry of Finance headquarters here in Abuja. We are members of the Pengantan. They have barricaded the entrance of the Federal Ministry. As you can see behind me, those people you see on red are members of the Pengantan. It is, however, unclear what their demands are, because we tried initiating conversations with them, but unfortunately, they declined speaking to press. Well, earlier on, we saw some members of the leaders of the same demonstration alongside some officials of the Federal Ministry of Finance. They came outside, had a word or two, and went back inside. But over the time, I've been covering some demonstration and protests. This is different from all the kinds I've been covering. They are not telling us what their demands are. There are no placard in sight. There are no inscription on any poster or whatever. All we are seeing here is just vibes, music, and the barricade at the front of the Federal Ministry of Finance here in Abuja.
Okay, so now that's a developing story. Before I just let you go, is there any of their, probably a spearhead, a leader of the movement, somebody around that has probably addressed anyone, either the press or the people, officially or unofficially? Okay, I think we just lost our communication with Joshua right there, but then this is a developing story that we're going to focus on. Joshua, I'm told to try and talk to you once again. I'd like to find out, has there been any word from a spearhead of the movement, somebody that's actually leading the crowd, in terms of what they've said to the crowd or to the press, either official statement or unofficial, to let us have an understanding of why they had gathered at the Federal Ministry of Finance headquarters?
Well, so far there have not been any official statement from the leaders of this demonstration. Well, we are expecting them to come out from their negotiation table to come and speak with us available on the ground to air their grievances. It seems that they are actually gathering to speak to pressmen, and we would like to cover that and get an information of what their demands.
Thank you so much, Joshua. We are going to stay with you on that and get more details from you later on. Thank you. Let's go on a short break. We'll be back in a bit. Stay with us. Talking politics now, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, says is only interested in a coalition against bad governance. Obi spoke on Monday during a visit to Duke Akamisoko, Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Kubwa in Abuja. Recently, talks on a coalition to wrest federal control from the All Progressives Congress have dominated mainstream political debates. Opposition politicians have also been holding a series of strategic meetings to actualize the plan. His comments come in the light of reports suggesting an alleged agreement with Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, to serve as his running mate in the next general elections. The reports also claim that Atiku had purportedly agreed to serve for just one term, was open to formalizing these agreements in writing. However, Obi dismissed the reports, saying those making such claims were promoting selfish political interests that do not benefit the country. For more on this, I'm joined by Taiwo Olakpade, who is a publisher and current affairs analyst. Thank you so much for coming around.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I mean, do you see any success with this coalition in terms of the comparison with what we've seen in the conversations between Atiku and Peter Obi?
Well, if you permit me, let me just quickly give a background. We remember that former President Muhammadu Buhari contested up to about 3-4 times before there was an alliance with the current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which led to the formation of the All Progressive Congress in 2015. Before then, Buhari had tried several times, and that shows that anybody who wants to win a presidential ticket, win the presidency in the country, must have votes that reflect, the major regions of the country. So that's the reason why we are seeing this alliance, coalition coming from Atiku or coming from the opposition parties in this regard. We saw a brief of that in 2019 election, in which at the same Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, they ran on joint ticket. Atiku was the presidential candidate, while Peter Obi served as his running mate. But unfortunately, what did we see in 2023 election? Both of them went their different ways, and that gave Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu the leeway to emerge as the president of the country. Ordinarily, if it had been the same way we saw in 2019, that it was a joint ticket between them, maybe this time around Obi could be the president, Atiku could be the vice. I don't know. Of course, Asiwaju will have been defeated. In that election, by record, Asiwaju got about 8.7 million votes. Atiku Abubakar 6.7 or 8 thereabouts. Obi got 6.2 thereabouts. So if Atiku's and Obi's votes were together, if it was a joint ticket, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I say categorically, would have been defeated in that election. But because they split the vote, Obi was a member of the PDP until that, before the 2023 election. So they split the votes among them. Even Rabi Kwankwaso was also of the PDP before he took the ticket of the new Nigerian People's Party. Yeah. So people believe, particularly the political analysts and watchers, believe that because they went their different ways was what gave Asiwaju the opportunity to emerge as president in 2023 elections. Okay, so now we're at the crossroad whereby we're looking at who should lead and who should follow. And some people have said that the political sagacity or influence that Atiku has waned over time. But then if you had to look at the political strengths of both candidates, I'm looking at Atiku and Peter Obi, who do you think should be taking the gauntlet if there's going to be a possibility of usurping the authority in power? That's a very serious question, because ordinarily I'm not a member of either of the political parties. We just look at the weights. But my estimate, sincerely, the popularity of former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, with due respect, had dwindled, is really coming down, and that's the truth. And there are also people of the opinion that Atiku should also take the backside. She will also maybe not even contest the 2027 presidential election. But our constitution allows everyone. It doesn't say, of course, it said, I think from age 35 or 40 thereabouts, So we can also say, because we are saying that he had run so many times, of course, Buhari ran how many times before he eventually got the presidency in 2015. So we cannot ordinarily say that Atiku shouldn't run. But if you want to look at it truly, if indeed you want to buy into coalition, he should have also allowed somebody to run. And in that case, Obi's popularity, sincerely, from that outcome of the 2023 election is gaining ground. And that's why people are also of the opinion that Atiku should rather give support to Peter Obi in the run-up to the 2027 election. But you can also underrate, because if you want to contest presidency in Nigeria today, you must be loaded in terms of cash. So, and I don't know who among them can really match Atiku word for word, cash for cash, when it comes to electionary campaign in the country.
Okay, well, we can't talk about cash, financial infrastructure, so to speak, but then we can also talk about this coalition. And you look at both parties. We're looking at the Labour Party enmeshed in crisis, leadership crisis. We're talking about the PDP also having its own skirmishes around the figures or the political icons within that party. How will these two heavyweights be able to merge their strength when even the platforms that they represent are not even solid in terms of internal strength and internal structures?
Well, I remember what the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace, Mr. Festus Keyamo, said as regards coalition, that if indeed in the 2027 election, of course, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the current president, has not even indicated interest to run. But we have seen the body language, and we have seen campaign, we have seen comment from political gladiators as regards we're endorsing Tinubu in 2027 and the likes. But if eventually this coalition they are talking about, it's the wall, did not work, let us forget about it. Asiwaju will have easy run if eventually it becomes the candidate of the APC come 2027. And because of the internal wranglings between the leading opposition, we know we need a viral opposition in our democracy, whether we like it or not. And that's why some people are also very pained that the way the opposition party are dwindling. You know how many members of the opposition party that have jumped ship to the really non-progressive Congress. How many states do we have left that is being controlled by the PDP? Even there are even rumor that some of these governors are also waiting for time to also jump ship in the long run. So, and it won't be good for us to have a one-party state affair. It won't be good for our democracy. We need a viral opposition to really keep those in the saddle of responsibility. They must be watchword or watchguard as the case may be, so that they will know wherever they are getting wrong, they will know there are people to also come them back and they call them to order. But this coalition, as it is now, I don't see it working because of the attitude or the idea of me, me, and me that is very commonly known with our politicians. Atiku is not staging, is not, the way, the body language, I don't think he's really ready to say, let me leave the state for Peter Obi or for any young Nigerian who are also credible. Let me give my support. Okay. I think he has made his mind that I want to try again come 2027. Okay, so we're in the era of political jumping ships. Okay. We are edging towards a one-party state, and we have a dark horse in the SDP that El Rufai is trying to, has tried to woo Atiku to come join that force, has spoken to Peter Obi. Do you think that dark horse could actually help the political climate change or traverse away from having a one-party state where we see APC taking the permanence or taking the role? If you see all these gladiators, these political gladiators, coming together with a common purpose, deciding to say, let me leave my ambition. Let us allow, maybe among ourselves, who we think is more qualified or who we think will be more acceptable to Nigerians. If they can do that, I'm telling you today, the APC will have, the APC will now have easy run come 2027. But the bottom line is, in the long run, by the time it gets to a point, this coalition, everybody, things will surely fall apart because of the selfish interest. We know our politicians that it will just want to be me and me. Ordinarily, if we have had, just like I said earlier, the similar joint ticket between Atiku and Obi, the way we saw it in 2019, if the same thing was repeated in 2023, maybe we would have been singing a new, maybe different tune entirely, you know, but because of the dichotomy of, or the disagreement as regard who should be the candidate and who should be the running mate, is the reason why all of them went their different ways and gave Ashwaju the room to win, you know, in that 2023 elections.
Well, let's hope they can sort their differences before 2023.
I doubt if they can really do. And I know you also know that they won't be able to solve it.
I'm just in the middle. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's move on now. We're still in Nigeria anyway. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has announced that it will release results on Wednesday for 379,997 candidates who retook the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculations Examination. The receipts followed widespread outrage over mass failures with JAMB attributed to technical and human errors, especially in Lagos and Southeast states. Over 1.5 million of the 1.9 million original candidates scored below 200, sparking national concern. JAMB's registrar, Professor Ishak Oluyede, however, took responsibility for the errors and rescheduled the exams. Lawmakers from the Southeast condemned the process, demanding Oluyede's resignation, citing poor communication and clashes with WAEC exams. Coming up on the news, Tanzania's opposition leader appears in court for the treason charge. We'll tell you more and bring you the rest of the stories in a bit. Stay with us. Tanzanian opposition leader Tundu Lissu has appeared in court on a treason charge that carries a potential death sentence, vowing to continue his fight for reforms. Supporters cheered Lissu as he entered the Dar es Salaam courtroom on Monday, wearing a "No Reforms, No Elections" shirt and holding a draft of a proposed new constitution. His Chadema party has been barred from contesting October elections after demanding electoral reforms. Now, Libya's UN-recognized government has recaptured Abu Salaam prison in Tripoli after deadly clashes with militias and has pressed for a permanent ceasefire. The violence erupted last week after the killing of a militia leader, triggering fighting between the government-aligned 444 Brigade and rival factions, including the Radar Force. At least 8 people were killed, according to the United Nations. The Defense Ministry said that efforts toward a ceasefire are ongoing. And meanwhile, the 444 Brigade uncovered a mass grave containing 10 bodies in Abu Salaam, previously controlled by the slain leaders group. Let's now tell you that News Central Television is partnered with A Ball for Her and other key brands to launch Screen Me Active, a gender equality sports mentorship program under the African Lead Hers International Initiative, focused on empowering young female athletes. The event blends mentorship, fitness, health education, and interactive challenges aimed at promoting gender equity through sports. This collaboration provides girls with valuable tools and role models to inspire confidence and athletic ambition. The program encourages a healthy lifestyle and opens pathways for youth development in sports. With support from multiple organizations, the initiative marks a significant step towards building a more inclusive future in athletics.
Part of my Basketball Africa League, that's Bow for Her initiative, a mentorship program that I am blessed to be one of the African girls who are selected for this initiative. And I have to touch lives. So it's all about touching lives. I had to use health education, and then infuse sport into it. And I want to say a very big thank you to News Central TV. Now, this proves that News Central TV is all about the people. It's all about the people, the voice of the people. They were able to, join this initiative, jump on this initiative, help one of their employees, which is me. I'm humbled to have benefited from something like this. And News Central TV, thank you so much.
And I'm so honored to be a part of this event today. It's very enlightening and it's life-changing. One of the amazing things that took place, as you can see, are the ongoing tests for HIV. They are screening your blood, your high blood pressure. They want to know how you're doing. And I would like to advise everyone to take their health seriously, because health is wealth. That's all at this hour, but before we go, we'll look at our top stories again.
Budget Foundation raises concerns over alleged omissions, irregularities in the 2025 budget. Police, Army, Fulani vigilantes rescue 3 kidnapped victims during Kogi forest raid. They also told you that Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi calls for Israel's immediate and unconditional withdrawal from all Lebanese territory. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Marvel TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.